Good day, lovely people. Today we're going to do a tutorial where we are going to create a registration form in Python Kivy. So you will learn about labels and input box. First of all, we're going to create the file called registration form, that is reg form. As you can see here, we have created that already, just for the sake of time. So let's begin. Now with Kivy you have to import everything. So let's begin. First we say import Kivy. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to import what I need to create this registration form. So after we import Kivy, we said from Kivy dot uix dot widget import widget with a capital W. Then from Kivy dot app import app. Now later on in the tutorial you will find out exactly why we import these features from Kivy. Should be app. Then we're going to need the object property. So from Kivy dot properties, we're going to import object, I think is a capital P, property, I think it's with a capital P. So first of all, we're going to create the run area. We're going to create the form. So let's begin. So we're going to say class my app, and it's an app. Then we're going to build the app. So we're going to say create a function build. So what we have done here, what we're doing here, we're building the app. Then we're going to say if underscore name is equal to double equal open double equal main, then we're going to say my app dot run. Okay, this is the mistake that was made. So let's put it there and press the tab. I think we should have it here. Beautiful. So let's run this and see how it looks. Okay, so what we have here, we have a blank form. Okay, so let's close this. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to design the form. But what we're going to do to design the form, we're going to use the Kivy file. Now, take notice. You have my app. You have to make sure that when you're creating the Kivy file with the extension, it's supposed to be .kv. The Kivy file, you have to make sure that it is the first letters before the app. So this is my app. So the Kivy file is my.kv. Now we're going to create a class here. Before we continue with the Kivy app, let's create a class. So class is my grid, and we want to pass the widgets. So it's widget, widget. So we can just say pass, and we can start our Kivy file. So let's begin. So this should be my grid. And you remember here in the Kivy Python file, we have my grid. So we have to start off, open and close my grid. Then what we're going to do, we're going to indent. So we press the tab key. Remember, press the tab key. Now we're going to create a grid. So we're going to say grid, supposed to be capital G, capital L, layout, or layouts. I think it's layouts. Now we're going to say column. We're going to create two grids. We're going to create, what we're going to do, we're going to create two grid, and we're going to put one in the other. So columns, for the first grid, columns will be 1, and because we want to place everything on the form. When we run the form, we're going to say size, and size is root, because we're going to send this back now to the Kivy Python file. So it's root.width and root.height. So it is root.width, root.height. So let's go. Now we are going to create the next grid. So it is grid layouts. Now remember, this grid is in this grid. Okay, so let's indent. So columns is 2, because we're going to use 2 columns. All right, so let's put some label in our grid. So we have label. Label we're going to say is text is first name. Then what we need an input box to put our text name. So we can say text input can say multi-line false. So let's run this and see exactly what happened. Now we're going to run it to see what happened, if we made any, if any errors was created. It's not on it. Let's see what happened. So let's see why. Let's run it and see why it is not on it, the form. Let's run it. The form is still blank. Let's look at the Kivy Python file. Oh, here's the problem. It should be return my grid. So let's do that and run it and see what happened. Beautiful. So now we have our two columns. And what I like with Kivy is that when you resize the form, it stays intact. As you can see, it doesn't fall off the form. Everything stays intact. All right, so let's move on. So let's put in our other entries. So we have first name, we have text input. So we're going to copy these down here. So it is, we will be having first name, last name, then address, then the zip code. So let's change it as we go on. So we have last name, we have address, and we also have zip. ODE. So let's go over back to our Python file and run our program and see if we have everything on the form. Okay, we have the first name, the last name, the address, and the zip code. Beautiful. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put a submit button on our form. So let's go ahead and put the button on our form. So we go back into the key file, the my key file. And remember, we have two columns. We have the first column, we have two grid layout. We have the first grid layout with one column and the next one with two columns. That's why when we run the program, if you notice, we have two set of columns. So take a look. We have two columns, one for the labels and one for the input. But what we're going to do, we want the submit button to come right across here. So what we're going to place the submit button in is the first grid layout. That would be the first grid layout. So what we would do, it would spread right across. So let the show begin. Let's go over back to our Kivy file and just take a look. So we are in this line because you have to make sure that the indent is correct, because Python is case sensitive and indent sensitive. So let's go down here and we're going to put way down at the bottom. I think it is in this line. We're going to put button, and the text for the button would be SUBMIT, submit. And let's make sure that it is in the correct line. Okay, so it is in, no, it's not in the correct line. It's, let's see, it should be in this one. So let's run it and see what would happen if we have it in that line. Let's go over to a Python file and run the program. So we're now in our Python file and we're running the program. Now, if you notice, we didn't put it in the correct line. So instead of it supposed to be spread right across, it is way in the left hand corner. So let's correct this. So what we're going to do, we're going to go over here and we're going to put it in this line. In this line, because it is a part of this. So let's go. So tab it over and tab these over too. Now let's run our program. Let's go over back to our Python file and run our program. Beautiful. We have our submit button right across. Now what we can do, we can change the font size. So the font size, let's go over back to our Kivy file and change the font size. So we can say font_size, it is 32. So let's run it and see. Let's go over back to our Python file and run the program. Now we can see that our submit button font is a little bit bigger. But when you press it, nothing happens. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a function. So when we press this, all these information, the first name, the last name, the address, and the zip code, print out in the terminal. So let's go. So what we're going to do, we're going to create some variables. And we're going to create the variables in our Kivy file. So first we say f name is equal to f name, l name is equal to l name, address, and zip code is equal to zip code. Now we have to go over to our Python file and we're going to go here and we're going to pass these variables to our Python file. So remember, we import the object property. So we're going to say name is equal to object property none. And we're going to do it for all the variables. So should be f name and l name. So the next one is address. And the next one is zip code. Now we're going to create a function to send all these information to the terminal. So let's begin. So we're going to create a function and the name of our function is press. So we're going to say fname is equal to self dot fname dot text. So lname. So we're going to do the same for all the variables. lname self dot lname dot text. The next is address is equal to self dot address dot text. And last, zip code to self dot zip code dot text. And what we're going to do here, we're going to print everything to the terminal. So we're going to say fname lname address and zip code. So before we can send these information to the terminal, we have to go back to our Kivy file, and down where we have the submit button, we're going to say on press is equal to root dot press, because what we're actually doing, we're sending it to this function, which is press. So let's run our program and see if it works. So we're back in our Python Kivy file. So let's run our program and see if it works. Wow, there's an error here. We have located the problem. What happened is that after we create the variables, we did not give the text input box ID. So let's give them the ID now. So ID is, the first one is f name, this one ID l name, this one ID address, and this one the ID is zip code. So let's go back to our Python file and run our program. Beautiful. So our program is running now. So just let's put it up here, because what we want to do, we want to show you how we're going to send this to our terminal. So let's put in the name. It is James Brown, and James Brown live at Lovers Leap, and Lovers Leap is a beautiful place in Jamaica. Zip code 876. So let's submit it. Nothing here. Let's see the problem. So the problem is right here. So I forgot it. So let's go back to our Python file and run our program. So let's run our program. And we're going to put in James Brown Mr. Brown still lives in Lover's Leap, and his zip is 876. So let's see if this will go to our terminal as intended. Submit. So we have James Brown, Lover's Leap 876. So what we did here, we put the last name or F name, right, James Brown. Yep. So that's it.